Many of the Season 1 collectibles and what people call grails have started to become more and more extinct on the app, with taking a sharp increase in price over the last few days. So in this video, we're going to be discussing if we're ever going to see these lower prices again for some of these collectibles, what lessons you should actually take moving forward to make better decisions for you and your investment over the long run. So let's get started. Welcome in everyone, my name is Andy and I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come and watch this video on the channel. Just before we get started, if you do enjoy the content and you want to support me further, you can hit that subscribe button, or if you want to support me even more, you can join the membership. The first time ever I bought my first ever physical collectible, and it is the Todd McFarlane Batman. I've got mint number 1708, so if you know the person who has the NFT version in Veve of 1708, please send them away. I'd love to get in contact with them and set up some form of trade so that I can get that in my vault. If you've been paying attention to Veve, you'll know that it's been absolutely nuts over the last few days. We've seen an incredible increase in some of the prices of these collectibles, with something like Superman going from around 2.5k to about 5k, Todd McFarlane's now up at 9k, Spider-Man hit 69,000 at one point, and there's been a lot of other increases in prices for some of these grails and even some of the Season 1 collectibles that are now loading out of the supply. There's a few reasons why people are saying this is the case. Maybe due to the delay in the MTL, we've got more influencers who are now talking about this, more athletes who are now actually getting involved. We've got more people growing on Veve as YouTubers and as content creators, so there's a lot of other varying reasons as to why things are increasing, and I think just because as well we've not had a massive announcement as of yet, people are wanting to spend their gems wherever they're feeling that the long-term plays are going to be in their favour. As of right now, the market is taking quite a pump, and I'm guessing there's going to be a retraction at some point in the near future, because you can't really have these rises without a healthy retraction as it goes. But this doesn't mean that there are not instances that we need to take note of when it comes to the market itself, and how we can actually learn about this to use it as our advantage moving forward. Grails are what is known as the ones that can stand the test of time and will be the top of the top that every sort of main influencer that joins would want to get to be one of the best. So what people classify as maybe the grails at the moment are things like the partner statue, Todd McFarlane Batman, secret rare Spider-Man, Superman, ultra rare Mickey, and there's a few others here and there when it comes to the comics, like the Marvel's 1 secret rare and a few others. So the grails in themselves have definitely took a significant increase over the last couple of days, and people are starting to realize the true value that these can hold in general, and the value that they may be able to provide in years to come if Veve continues to be successful in their move towards bringing in mass adoption. I'm going to go to my favourite app, Wiki, and show you exactly what I mean and why you have to pay maybe a little bit more attention to things that you've done your research on and that people maybe aren't talking about as much right now, until it gets to a point where everyone's talking about them, like Todd McFarlane, like Superman, and all that sort of stuff. The two that we're going to have a look at today are Todd McFarlane's Batman and Superman. This is because they've had enough time to solidify themselves as what they are in general as characters, and it will be able to discuss just exactly what I'm trying to talk about here when it comes to it. So we can see from when Wiki could actually start, we can see here from when Wiki could actually start collecting the data from everything. Todd McFarlane sat around 1790 and was sitting at a steady pace right now. We got the announcement of Disney coming out, and the lowest that he hit was about 1300 in regards to the data that we've got here. He then took a rise up over the next coming weeks to about 2500. Now what I want you to take note of here is that 2500 was what Todd McFarlane sat at a peak after an increase had happened. Now this is perfectly fine to happen. Organic rises often do happen, and just general rises are happening in the market at different days, but a healthy retraction has to occur. So what some people may think is that if I don't buy at the 1300 that's sitting here and then they see it go to 2500, it'll go back down to where it was at before. But in reality, retractions like this, especially when it comes to collectibles that are very sought after and are classed as grails, don't often take the same percentage retraction as the increase that they've taken. So we can see here that the price bump went to around 2600, but we never saw 1300 again. It took a dip to 2300, 2200, 2000, and we never saw the 1200 again. We never saw it hit that mark. No matter what happened, the retraction didn't take place to the same place that it was at prior to this. And again, we can see that it took another jump from around 2300 to around 4500. Now, did we ever see the 2300 mark again? No. The lowest we ever saw was 3,000. Again, what we can take from this is when rises happen, especially for significant characters and collectibles, the retractions that occur once enough time has passed that the collectible has been out is unlikely to see the retraction hit the same point before the pump actually occurred. What we're seeing right now is that from here, it took a jump from around 3,600 all the way up to 9,000. Will a retraction happen? I do believe so. But the lowest I can see it possibly going is around 6,000 here and not any lower than that, which is near enough double what the 3,000 was sitting at only a month prior. And what I want you to take from this here is the true significance of what these grails can hold and how over time the supply lowers, demand increases, and when pumps happen, even though healthy retractions are going to occur, they're not going to retract the same amount as before the pump had occurred. Meaning the point that you're thinking of buying at right now for certain grails may be the best time to buy them if you're planning to hold for the long run. Let's then use another example to back up our point and try to understand what I'm meaning in regards to this and why buying at the time when everyone doesn't really discuss what's going on is the best time to buy rather than when pumps happen, because you're more often or not going to have to be left holding the bag for longer periods of time to do so, and understanding why the supply of this could potentially be fully gone. And this will be something that many people want, many people are after for their vaults in the Veveverse and in any other place that they can be used, as these will be classified as the top of the top, what the celebrities, what the influencers, what the companies and the brands will all want to keep a hold of, as these are what are sought after, and these are what displays you as the sort of Bored Ape Yacht Club of Veve. Superman hasn't been out for as long as Todd, so we're going to see a little bit of a change in what happens right here, but I still see it taking the same sort of pattern that Todd has been taking over this period of time. We can see that back in October, you know, we're sitting at 1,000 and we took the dip to around 670. Now, after Disney had finished, we took a little bit of a run up to about 1,350, which was Superman's close to all-time high, I believe. There was maybe one other all-time high before that, but we didn't see that in the chart, of course. But then again, from 1,350 all the way from about 670, we never saw 670 again. The lowest we saw was around 960. From the run up, we saw 670 at the lowest. We saw a run up to about 1,350, and even though there was a healthy retraction, we never saw the 650 again. And again, when we come to the next sort of run up, we had around 960 being its lowest, we saw a 1,400, we saw a 1,085, but after the run up, we saw a 1,900 spike here. And after the 1,900 spike here, we never saw 1,000 again. 1,000 isn't in the retraction. It took a healthy retraction, don't get me wrong. It went back from 1,900 all the way to 1,400, 1,350, but we never saw the 1,000 again. After the 670 to the 1,400 run up, we never saw 670 again. All we saw was an increase over time if you're willing to hold. And what we see here is there's been a run up about 1,500, 1,400. Now that we went all the way up to close to 6,000 yesterday, we're at 5,000 now, taking a little bit of a retraction, but I'm guessing we are never going to see the 1,500 mark again. What we can see from here, over time, listings have lowered, and they've went to 200 at one point, they shot all the way down to 123, and we're sitting at around 228 right now. Still significantly lower than it was when we were sitting at a 910 price point. Now it's sitting at a 5,000 price point. I know this is a lot to take in, but I want you to try to understand what happens with the Grails listings, supply, and demand as we have more time to see what these actually are and what these could be. When prices take a boom and then it takes a healthy retraction, we often see quite a jump in listings. That's because people are taking profits from what they've purchased before and are wanting to get some liquidity for what they're having. But what this also means is that when prices are at this point now, so Superman used to be at around 200 gems, it's not that much of an investment for some people in this market, and therefore they're willing to buy a few. But if they let a few go as markets increase, as price increases, as demand increases but supply actually lowers, that becomes more of a significant investment to actually put in. So now, instead of putting 200 gems into a Superman, you have to minimum put in 5 grand in order to get one. And as we see more and more demand and less supply for the second most popular superhero character in the world, then that means the investment people are going to have to make is something that they will willingly hold for a long time because the investment is so significant with what they're putting in. You can easily in the past buy 5 Supermans for 1,000 gems, but now you can't even buy one with that. You're having to buy one for 5,000 gems, and the average consumer doesn't have that money to sort of play around with randomly and just throwing that out there all the time. That means as we get further and further into this year, into next year, and the following, there's only ever going to be one FA, first ever appearance of Superman, Todd McFarlane, Walt Disney Partners, Marvel's one secret rare. There are only ever going to be one ever first appearance of those. And as demand increases and more influencers come into this space, the community grows in itself, there starts to become a gap where the average consumer can no longer actually afford what these grails are. This pump up is going to see a retraction. It has to see a healthy retraction. But as we saw, I don't see it taking the retraction all the way back down to 1,500. The only way that I see that ever happening is if Pokemon is announced or some massive lawsuit comes to Veve where they just can't handle the situation and they lose all their business. If Pokemon are to happen, I can see a 60% dip for some of the collectibles. But what you've also got to think about is that the grails there are probably going to be higher at that point, where the 60% dip still isn't enough to take it back to what it was lower before. Let's take Todd McFarlane for example. Say Pokemon is released at the end of the year, and by that time Todd McFarlane could potentially reach upwards of 30,000 gems. Let's say that for as an example. If he were to decrease by 50% because Pokemon were released and announced, that still means Todd McFarlane sits at 15,000 gems, higher than anything that what it's sitting at right now at this present time. Over time, demand is going to completely outweigh the supply that is actually given here. More people are going to hold Todd McFarlane's, Superman's, and all the other grails that they classify as grails right now than ever before, because that is a status symbol. Holding a Bored Ape Yacht Club right now is a status symbol. It means you're one of the top, the elite of what NFTs are holding right now. If Veve is going to become as successful as many of us believe it's going to be, holding something like a Todd McFarlane, a Walt Disney's partner statue, or a Superman is going to be a status symbol. We've already saw communities form in this instance of what you actually have when you own a Spider-Man or a Marvel's one secret rare comic. And there's also going to be things in the future where we're going to see fractionalized NFTs within Veve. As this already happens in the wider scope in OpenSea for things that are too expensive for the average consumer, this will most likely be the same when it comes to Veve. I want you to understand that moving forward, there's going to be more FA characters that will be released that are extremely popular. We're going to see things like Darth Vader, we're going to see things like Wolverine, we're going to see things like Cinderella. These are all going to be significant characters as a whole. And I want you to understand that although the short-term hit might be quite significant, the long-term plays are what most often win, and why they win is because supply often tends to lower over time as demand increases. And as we get more and more people on this platform, the more people are going to be after what will bring them the most influence and significance in this space. And that is what is classified as the grails. We're yet to determine really the categorization of what a grail is, but I think we've started to establish exactly what that could be and why that is actually the case. And as time progresses, I don't see us really seeing the low prices that we have seen over the last few months. And I want you to take that into the future as more FA characters that are extremely popular are released on this app. You might have a small window of opportunity to pick these up at a reasonable price, and you may never see that reasonable price again, especially over the long run as you hold it and as more people are on this platform. I'd love to hear your thoughts on collecting the grails as a whole, the price fluctuations of those, and more when it comes to what you're planning on picking up and why. Do you believe the status symbol will be as big as something like the Bored Ape Yacht Club in 5 and 10 years to come? Or do you think something like that will not be as significant on an app like Veve? I'd love for you to let me know down in the comments. I know the video on the screen right now will be something you'll love to watch. Have a fantastic day.